Hi guys, popcorn bloody junkies in lockdown.
Been a while.
We haven't been to the cinema in absolutely ages. In fact, the last film we reviewed, too long, wasn't it? Last film we reviewed was The Hunt, Me and Nanny Di. But she's gone. She's been hunted, she's been found, and she's been eaten. So we decided we would watch and review The Platform, which is the new sci-fi thriller, it's described as, on Netflix, which is a Spanish film. I suggested to Maddie, I saw this first, and then I said to Maddie, you must watch this.
Oh no, I was just in my room and I was like, oh yeah, I need to watch Platform. And then I looked at the time and it was about 2:30. And I was like,
in the morning.
And then I watched the trailer and I was like, I'm good. So I watched Trolls instead.
So it's called The Platform in English, but in Spanish it's called The Hole.
Oh.
Which is kind of curious, isn't it? Because I wonder that emphasis.
Which makes more sense because they keep calling it The Hole in the film.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why have we made it Platform?
It's curious, isn't it? I always find it fascinating the way in which films are translated and why they go for different words. So I don't know any of the filmmaking personnel behind it. All I'd heard about it was that it was going to be a sort of fascinating, gory exploration of sort of people in a strange prison.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really know what I was going to watch.
No.
Because I didn't properly see the trailer, I just saw,
Oh,
Netflix
that's right, me,
has
Kiki,
the,
and
pop-up
your mum
thing.
did. I would say from the outset, if you're at all prone to finding anything gory too much,
Faint-hearted or something.
avoid. Avoid. There's cannibalism in it, there's sex, there's people pooing on people. So yeah, so the concept is that, and I felt the film was muddled in parts. I didn't think it was a perfect film.
No.
Because I never really got to grips with why anyone was there.
Yeah, me neither.
And that bugged me for a while. Did it bug you?
Yeah, it really bugged me. Especially the main guy.
Yeah. And
the reason why he brought a book.
Yeah, he brought a book, whereas other people would bring a dog.
Yeah, one woman brought a dog.
And why they're paired up and stuff. So what happens is, we see in flashback that he's actually gone to this place to go in there. I thought it was like a prison, a punishment. He voluntarily goes there, doesn't he?
Yeah, which I think some of the old man was surprised about.
Yes, he was, wasn't he?
So why would you want to come in here?
So I can
But
understand
I thought that he went in there to quit smoking.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, right. The thing for me was quite quickly, I was trying to be really literal with everything. So I was thinking, okay, so why are they in a prison? Okay, I get that it goes all the way up and I get that it goes all the way down. And I know that they've got food going up and down. But I could never work out why he was there, because there's a whole scene of him filling out a form and kind of, almost like signing in almost to a hotel.
Yeah.
The grimmest hotel in the world.
Yeah.
And then yet with the other people in there, they felt like inmates. So it felt like a prison.
Yeah.
And they were all a bit mad.
Oh yeah, not surprised.
Well, not surprisingly, yeah, because you never knew how long they'd been in there. And there was a suggestion.
Well, they were in a month. They were put on each level for a month.
That's right. That's right.
But I never found it clear as to how long some of them would be there for.
No, exactly. In total, you know. Yeah. So you never knew whether you were there for 3 months, 6 months. Yeah, exactly. So you've got these floors, and then the defining element of what makes these floors more punishing, if you like, or less punishing, is that the closer you are to the top, a restaurant at full tilt at the top floor is making this beautiful food to go on the platform that descends through all of these cells. And the onus of the function of this is that as the food goes down, the couples on each floor, 2 inmates on each floor, should eat their fill for a certain amount of time. And theoretically, if everyone...
And if you kept any food on your level, they would either burn or freeze you to death.
That's right. So you couldn't store anything. You had to eat when the platform was there in front of you. And theoretically, if you just ate what was your lot, it would feed everyone going all the way down.
Yeah.
But what we learned quite quickly was that the people at the top would eat far more.
Greedy as well.
Yeah. And when you started to realise that there was this sort of iniquity and an unequal sort of distribution of food, I thought then I started to embrace the film more metaphorically. It became sort of a bit like a
because it was
poem.
that whole thing as well, at one point, at the start of the film, the old man that the main guy's first.
Yeah, so played by Zorion Eguileor.
Really good.
He was great, wasn't he?
Really good. But there was a bit where after he'd finished eating, the platform started going down. He spat his food out.
I know.
And he goes, "Why'd you do that?" He's like, "Because they're below us." And he goes, "Yeah, but they might be above us next month." And he goes, "Yeah, bastards."
I know.
But it's I like that whole thing of those people at the top are higher in the up in the hierarchy.
Yeah.
But next month they'll probably be at the
Yeah,
bottom.
yeah.
It doesn't matter.
So it was the great equaliser as well. So I mean, yeah. So where we find ourselves at the beginning of the film is with our main character Goreng, played by Iván Massagué. Remarkable actor. I've not seen him in anything.
No.
All held very much in close up. He's as bemused as we are with what the hell's going on, trying to read the situation.
He was really good in that first bit when somebody's jumped or been pushed out of through the hole, and the body hits their platform and the blood.
Oh my god, and it splats.
He was really good in that.
And so he finds himself, Goreng, the main guy, selling up basically as his cellmate is Zorion Eguileor. That's the actor. And this guy was probably, it was almost like they designed every single Bond villain in the history of Bond villains and rammed them into his head.
Yeah. At the start, I felt like he was kind of not trustworthy.
Yes.
But you felt kind of safe at the beginning.
Yeah.
I was like, he's not somebody that's going to be like, because he's old, I assumed that he was going to be a bit gross, a bit horrible, but not going to be a threat. But oh my god, he changed so much.
He did, didn't he?
And at one point I actually kind of was like, they're going to get along and he'll die and it'll be really sad.
Well, because our main character Goreng had taken in, you're allowed to take one thing in with you. It's almost like I'm a Celebrity, isn't it, in the jungle?
Oh yeah.
He took a book. What did the old guy?
A knife.
Oh, a knife.
The knife he'd seen on the television.
That's right. Oh god, that's right. Well remembered. But yeah, there were little there were little montages of time ticking away and them reading to each other.
Yeah, I liked all of those.
And then there's this facility where suddenly in this air, or they drug them all, gas.
Yeah, so that they can move them to a different platform.
And so we won't give away every twist and turn, but suffice it to say, it doesn't end well between old composite of every Bond villain guy and Goreng. But Goreng continues on to another floor. Yeah. And then on the next floor, so again, there's no sense of progress. You don't go consistently up, you don't go consistently down. So I can't remember where they started. So if this is sounding strange, it's because it is bloody strange. I'll tell you what it reminded me of. You might not have read it, but there's Dante's Inferno, which is that remarkable classic.
I studied it.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that classic poem of the descent into hell.
Yeah, I really like that.
I love all that, which is what my film The Masseuse was kind of about. That whole sort of the river Styx and going down.
I'd say I
paying your
probably
money.
belong in the one where you stuff your face.
Oh yeah.
What's it called? Galoo.
That's right. Yeah. Stuff your face. What with chips? Yeah, chips in hell.
Actually, this was a bit like, what is it called? Gluttony.
Yeah, gluttony.
Is that the word?
Gluttony,
yeah. But I felt like this was quite like that level.
It was like that, wasn't it?
Remember that's the level of hell where they're all like just having to swim through their own yuck and filth. And
well, that's true, and there were moments in this which we'll get to where your own effluence and all that kind of stuff was being mixed in with the food and everything. So you're right. I mean, you can't help, as soon as you've got something going all the way up, you can't help but think of the heavens. And as soon as things go all the way down, you can't help but infer that there's a sort of hellish bottom. And I kept trying to read things into the numbers. So at some point in the film, I mean, I'm jumping around a bit here. There is a point in the film where they go down to an even lower level, and it's floor 333. And I was thinking, the last room. And I was thinking, oh, could that be halfway to hell? Because 666, why would they have chosen 333? All that kind of stuff. So our main character, Goreng, moves from floor to floor to floor. We politely lose Bond villain guy in a curious manner. Politely.
Because I want to talk about with the woman who's looking for her child.
Yeah, so where did she
kind of falls in love with, doesn't he?
Yeah, so there's this kind of crazed sort of imp-like. She's reminded me of Bjork. Yeah, she's like a psycho Bjork.
She's beautiful though.
But she managed to move between floors.
Well, she just sat on because she killed her every time she would wake up in a new level. She would kill whoever she was in there with, which apparently if that happened, you're allowed to move levels.
Yeah, curious kind of bylaw.
Yeah, so she would sit on the platform, the food, looking for her child because she lost her child. And
so he moves through various sort of cellmates and inmates that he's in various cells with. But there's one particular chap, played by Emilio Coka, who was Baharat.
Oh my God, I loved him.
He was lovely. And sadly, this is the man who gets pooed in the face.
Yeah.
But there was something very trusting and very desperate that he wanted to get out. And so in a sense, Goreng and Baharat, they couple up together, don't they? As a double act. And they
decide to...
Well, they hit upon quite a good plan.
Yeah. Well, because they originally... they were going to go all the way down and make sure that all the people like halfway top, the top half, don't get food because they've been getting loads of food, and that they were going to stay on the platform and then feed everybody below that.
Or ensure that everyone beneath.
Make sure that everybody ate. They ended up
killing a lot of people.
A lot of people.
Because people are greedy.
Yeah.
And I mean, I thought that's what this film was about, wasn't
Greed,
it?
Yeah.
It was about greed, and it was about... So they used this very elaborate sort of device, and essentially Baharat and Goring then try to endeavour to go all the way down to the bottom.
Yeah.
Because they believe that if they get to the bottom, they'll then have to go all the way back up to the top. And we've been debating
told by that really wise guy in the wheelchair who knew about...
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah, to save the panna cotta.
That's
as
right.
a message to give...
And why do you think... we were just discussing this before we did this review. So there was this scene where they're sort of... They're trying to escape. They're trying to get to the top. They're trying to manage the amount of food that everyone else in there has. Sometimes by killing people, because it's like, you know, we're trying to get out of it. And then this panna cotta became quite amusing, where they're sort of holding this plate.
Yeah,
and the character of Baharat is holding it and going, the panna cotta is the message. The panna cotta is the message. And I thought that, for me, that was a suggestion that something so normal and ordinary, like a panna cotta or a dessert, could take on such symbolism if they could get to the top again and prove to the outside world, or whoever's sending the food down, that you can escape here, that humanity does exist.
Yeah.
I felt that's what they were kind of clinging to.
But it's strange because at the same time they've killed loads of people.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it was...
And what did you make of right at the top? And every now and then you'd cut to these incredibly meticulously shot sequences upstairs, which were in a restaurant, a Michelin-starred restaurant.
And they were really precise, because there was the bit with...
The head chef was frightening.
Yeah, when he was shouting at all of them, trying to match whose hair was in the panna cotta.
Yeah. And so they're...
And I couldn't tell if that was before or after everything.
I know what you mean.
Do you know what I mean? Like, that could have been the panna cotta. Like...
Yes. Yeah. And so it was like in this beautiful restaurant. I'll tell you what, there's a film, you won't have seen it, called The Cook, the Thief, His Wife and Her Lover by Peter Greenaway, where it's all about food, and it ends actually in cannibalism. So there's kind of a few parallels there. But yeah, so there was this sort of, almost this beauty in the food, and this sort of precision in getting it right. And then it was destroyed by everyone's greed. I mean, I felt the film, by and large, was an enormous metaphor.
Yeah.
It was an enormous metaphor.
This is interesting, because usually when, like, I feel like when a film covers greed, it's usually money or drugs. Or, but with this, it was food, because people are greedy when I think people can be more greedy when it comes to food than when it comes to money.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see a film about
pure greed, gluttony,
around
food. And yet it wasn't just about greed, because what was interesting about it as a kind of test was that on the platform was enough food to feed everyone if everyone took their allotted amount. And it really, I found it quite moving at times and depressing, because it was a sort of statement in these viral times where really we're all having to limit what we have and spread out the wealth a bit more. That actually the human condition can't do it on those first 10, the first 10 sort of rows of cells. Do you know what I mean? And so the film builds and builds and builds towards an end where it's sort of an escape. You've got all the drama of the escape. There's a lot of gore. There's a lot of innovative ways of killing people. There's a lot of body eating. There's a lot of body horror. A lot of blood. There's the crazed Bjork-like woman who doesn't last the entire duration either. It's one of those films that you feel if you go back to it and watch it again and again, you're going to see so many layers, literally layers levels of meaning to everything. And so it builds and builds and builds, and we are going to have to give you a bit of a spoiler at the end, because we're still sitting here trying to rack our brains as to what it actually meant.
On one of the levels, they both get quite badly injured. The level where he finds her dead.
That's right.
They both get really badly injured, so that they end up getting to the very last level, and by that point they're like practically dying. Yeah. Because they've been stabbed and all.
And there's more than 250 levels.
Yeah, they found out there's more than 250 levels, so they get to level 333, which is the last
halfway to hell.
And it looks like the room's empty, and then like, why is there nobody in the cell? And then it was under one of the beds or something. It's the child that the woman. The child that the woman was. What's the name of the main one? He ends up crawling.
Goring.
Yeah, crawling off the platform to get him. So then Baharat gets off too with him, and then the platform goes, and you're like, oh, no. Yeah. But they end up saying that they think that the child is the message that they need to be sending.
That's right. So rather than the panna cotta, it was the child. Now, do you think, having thought about that literally from just this discussion, do you think what they're trying to suggest with the child was that there's a purity. If a child can survive this, there's hope.
Yeah.
A little bit like if a panna cotta can survive this, there's hope.
Yeah, because how could nobody have found her?
Yeah, exactly. And maybe the child had survived because the mum was so capable at rushing up and down and working the system. And maybe in a way what the film was also about was...
But she would just stay with the child if she'd found.
But she had to keep hunting for food because he was so low below that she had to go up to get food.
Yeah, that's true.
And I wonder whether on a rewatch we might discover that she was actually kind of like birds in bird boxes, was just getting food and bringing. And maybe she kept coming back down to feed him. And in that sense, what the whole thing then becomes is a bit of a riddle on how can you work this system to survive, and how, you know, is there any capacity to maintain purity? Because I thought what was great about Goring, the actor's performance, you felt so, because he was so much of his performance was in close-up, you felt all the way through it, he was being challenged on what his boundaries of acceptance and bad behaviour were, didn't you? I mean, that wonderful scene where he was etching the days and eating the book
and counting
and refusing to eat. Yeah. He was doing everything in his power not to kind of almost tip to the dark side that Mr. bloody Bond villain had told him.
Also, trying not to kill, because the woman that he was putting after the old guy, she hung herself, didn't she?
That's right, yeah.
What about when her sausage dog died?
Oh my God! Well, that
crazy
was
woman killed
crazy
her
Bjork
sausage
woman.
dog.
Yeah, stringed it.
I know.
Just left like a spinal column.
I know,
A sausage dog. Mind you, you take a sausage. Well, there was a funny line on that. Didn't Goring say, he said, of all the dogs to bring into here, I think a sausage dog isn't the greatest thing.
Yeah.
So I found it, although it was muddled at times, and I think although there wasn't, it didn't.
Yeah, no, it's going to be more sausage than it is.
That's
dog.
it. It's more sausage than dog. It was beautiful. What about the way it was shot and the music?
I really like the way it was shot. It was so dark.
It was so dark.
And the whole set design.
Yeah.
I like the whole hole and the way you could see all the levels.
And it must have been CGI, but you didn't feel it CGI
at all,
did
it didn't
it?
seem like it
No,
was.
it was very.
The only point I felt that was when the little girl was left on the platform and it went zooming
rushed up.
I was like,
And as you said earlier, she would have died of G-force.
Which isn't funny.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, well, let's sum it up and give it a score then. Go on, you go for it.
It was really, really good, and I loved the set, and I didn't feel like there was so much money spent on CGI. It didn't feel fake at all. I totally believed that they were actually there. And I thought the performances from everyone were really, really good, actually.
Yeah, well, it proved that internal struggle can do the job, didn't it?
Yeah, I thought the main guy was brilliant.
He was, Iván Massagué.
There were times where I was a bit like, that's a bit weak, or, you know, like, I don't really understand that. But it kind of worked. I felt like it all kind of
hung together
and added to the kind of insanity of it all. And yeah, again, it's not for anybody that can't deal with gore and stuff, because each time I thought it was quite bad, it kind of got worse. And I was like, bro, it's actually crazy. Yeah. I think it's a really important film, especially around now as well, because I think the virus is showing a lot of people that we have too much. We have more than we need.
I totally agree.
And this film kind of showed you how, if everybody just had what they were supposed to have,
I totally agree.
Everybody would be more likely to survive. So I thought it had quite a sad, emotional meaning to it, as well as it just being kind of gory and violent and disgusting. It's not as simple as that, because, you know, people like Mum would just look at it and be like, oh, it's just killing people and just eating people, but it's
shitting on people.
But there's like deeper meanings to it.
Yeah, I agree. I was surprised by that.
And I thought the script was really good. It was quite witty. It was quite a charming script, I thought. There were like really nice moments, especially between him and the old man, even though the old man ended up trying to eat him. But yeah, I strangely thought it was quite a charming film, even though it was like not a film you would say is charming at all. And after you mentioning the whole 333 being halfway to hell thing, I didn't realise that at all.
No, well,
that's halfway to hell. What the hell is?
What the hell is hell? Oh my God!
But yeah, no, I really, really enjoyed this, and it freaked me out a bit, but like in a good way. So I think I'd give it 95.
Wow!
Only reason it's not 100, I think, it's just because of some of the plot holes. I wanted a bit more information. But apart from that, I thought it was a really.
I think that's a fair score.
And it was a really good length.
I agree. I can sometimes get really sort of on the spectrum a bit with what the constituent right elements to a perfect film are. Yeah. And as we know, Joker was one of those films for me. But there needs to be almost a sort of, within every single shot and scene and setup, a stylistic set of choices have been made that is so strong.
Yeah.
And I felt this was one of those rare films, and I was surprised to just see it come from Netflix, that virtually every shot was beautifully considered. Really was doing far more than just being a shot. You know, it was telling you about the space.
Yeah, I didn't feel like any pointless shot. There weren't any like.
No, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that the conceit of this sort of tunnel, hole, platform thing, prison, was very simple, and it was very effective, and it worked in a very sort of beguiling way, in that you were sort of, I kept finding myself feeling really hopeful, because I thought I want to be higher up on the floor, and I was really successfully imagining myself, what would I do in this situation all the time? I was thinking, what would I do?
And I felt so much for him, you know, every time he'd wake up after being in a new level, I'm like, oh my god, what is the level? And
there was that one point where he blearily eyed looked at it, and he thought it was one floor, and then it was another floor.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. I think it's a film that's got an on-point message for now about, if we were all just a little less greedy and a little bit more reasonable and thinking of others, we might all get through shit a lot more successfully. And I also really liked, and I was really pleasantly surprised by this whole sort of Tower of Babel or Descent Down to Hell, Dante's Inferno. It felt, all that stuff really made it even richer for me. To the point that, you know, I sort of almost felt it was the kid in the end a sort of the reverse of the devil, you know, because the devil is only a fallen angel that falls from heaven down to hell. And was this the reverse of that? Was this a sort of the angel kind of heaven, kind of ascending from hell? And I liked sort of details. It reminded me, as I say, of the Peter Greenaway film, The Cook, the Thief, His Wife and a Lover, which was all about food, and it was all about body, and it was all about greed and opulence and all that kind of stuff. And I just thought it was a really rich film. And going back to your point, it was the perfect length. So it came in at an hour and a half, tight. This just went for what it was after, and it just did it. And there were a few bits at the edges that were imperfect, but it really
I think it was clever as well, because there was a point where I was thinking, is any of this now real, or is he just imagining it? Was the child actually there?
Yes.
Did they actually send her as a message, or is he still just on a really low platform?
Absolutely. And the whole thing made me feel like I dreamt the whole thing. Yeah. It's like a dream.
Yeah, it is a bit like a nightmare.
A nightmare. So I would probably give it 96 out of 100. I'd give it one more than you. I thought it was a really neat piece of filmmaking, and I really enjoyed it. Made me hungry.
It would have been good in the cinema.
It would have been good in the cinema. Made me very hungry though.
Yeah, it made me hungry.
Really
It shouldn't, because it was gross.
I know.
For more film and family fun, don't forget to click the subscribe button and make sure to click the bell to never miss an update.